Hi students, Assalamu alaikum. This is Wahid Yusuf, your English teacher with another video lecture. And as far as today's topic is concerned, we are going to start a new topic today, that is a relative class. So this is our new topic, relative class. It carries 3 marks as far as your examination is concerned. It carries 3 marks. See, relative class we are going to start. In the previous lectures, we discussed narration. Before that topic, we discussed models. So you have these, you have models, you have this narration, you have relative clauses, and you have articles in your syllabus, and editing as well. So we have completed articles you have already done in the school, and as far as this modelers are concerned, we have completed that in these video lectures, and then narration we have also completed. And today we'll start this topic, that is relative class. See, before going directly to relative class, we should first know what a class means, what a class is. We should know what is a class, and we should know how many kinds of classes are there. That is very important, because without knowing a class, without knowing dependent class, independent class, we can't understand relative class easily. So starting with class. So what is a class now? What is a class now? See, as far as the class is concerned, class has 2 parts at least. Class is a group of words. It is a group of words that contains subject and verb, or predicate we call. Subject and predicate, or subject and verb. So class is a group of words. Class is a group of words which contains a subject and a predicate, or a subject and a verb, and it forms a part of sentence. So class is a group of words that contains a subject and a predicate and forms a part of a sentence. So now we can say that class is like a sentence. It is itself like a sentence, because a sentence needs to have a subject and predicate. But as far as class is concerned, class also has subject and verb, subject and predicate. But it makes a part of a bigger sentence, or part of a sentence. Now we'll come to know whether this group of words which carries a subject and predicate, whether that can be used as a sentence, whether that has the ability of standing its own as a sentence, standing on its own as a sentence. So we shall see, yes, it can and it cannot be. Yes, it has subject, it has predicate, and it is a part of a sentence, but sometimes it can make a sentence of its own. And sometimes it can't make a sentence of its own. That we shall discuss. So if we try to define class is this. It has a subject and a predicate and forms a part of a sentence. Now we have kinds. Sorry, these markers, they have kinds. So we have 2 kinds. Independent clauses and dependent clauses. Independent clause and dependent clause. See, independent clause is that clause. Independent clause is that clause which has subject, predicate, and it also is a part of a sentence. But the question is, if we separate from the sentence, it can make a sentence of its own. It can make a sentence of its own. I'll give you an example. He will bowl well. He'll bowl well if he gets a chance. This is a sentence. This is a sentence. He'll bowl well if he gets a chance. See, he'll bowl well is one clause here, and if he gets a chance is another clause. See, he'll bowl well. It is independent clause. It is independent clause. For example, we write he'll bowl well. It will become a sentence. So independent clause. Independent clause is that clause which has subject and predicate. Which has subject and this is subject and this is predicate. This is predicate, or we can call this is predicate or this is verb. And here we have dependent clause. In dependent clause we also have subject and predicate. We also have subject and predicate. But I want to tell you that as far as independent clause is concerned, it also has a subject and predicate. It also forms a part of sentence. But if we separate it from the main sentence, from that sentence, it can make a sentence of its own. It can make a sentence of its own because it is known as independent. Independent, you know that it doesn't depend on other clauses to make a complete thought, to make a complete sense, just like a sentence makes. So it acts as a clause when it is combined with another clause to make a sentence, and sometimes it can make a sentence of its own. It can make a sentence of its own. It can carry a complete thought. So that is how it is known as independent clause. That is why it is known as independent clause. So clause is a group of words which has subject and predicate, but it forms a part of sentence. As far as independent clause, it also is a group of words that has subject and predicate. It also forms a part of sentence, but if we separate it, it can stand on its own. It can give the complete thought. So it becomes a complete sentence if we separate it. See now, dependent clause. I'll write another example. He couldn't reach home because it was raining heavily. This part is independent clause and this part is dependent clause. Why dependent clause cannot make a sentence of its own? Why dependent clause cannot stand on its own as a sentence? See, I'll give you another example. I'll tell you, if you don't work hard, it is a group of words, it carries a subject, it carries a verb, but if I don't say anything else after that, will you understand my words? Will you understand my intention? If I say only this, oh students, if you don't work hard, and I leave the class, for example, I'll say if you don't work hard, I leave the class. If you don't work hard, और मैं बाहर जाऊंगा फिर. So what will happen? You will not understand what the teacher wanted to say, because this group of words, it doesn't contain a complete thought. Contain a complete thought. This is dependent clause. This is dependent. It depends on other clause. It depends on something else to make it complete. Now, if I say, if you don't work hard, you will not get 100% marks in the exam. So now it becomes complete. So dependent clauses are those clauses which have subject, verb, and they form they are the part of a sentence, but if we separate them, they can't stand alone. They can't stand alone. They can't stand on their own. So that is what is known as dependent clause. So because it was raining heavily, if I only say to you, if I only tell you that because it was raining heavily, because it was raining heavily, so what will you understand? Nothing. If I say because it was raining heavily, I could not reach my home. I could not reach my home. Now it is complete. Now it is complete. The sentence is complete. So dependent clause, that clause which has the subject, which has a predicate, but it cannot stand on its own. And independent clause which has subject, which has predicate, but it can stand on its own and it can make a sentence on its own. So that is the difference between dependent clause and independent clause. Now, what is relative clause now? What has relative clause to do with this dependent and independent clause? I'll tell you. See, relative clause, noun clause, adjective clause, adverb clause, prepositional clause, they are all dependent clauses. They are all dependent clauses. So clauses having subordinating conjunctions with them are known as dependent or subordinate clauses. Subordinate clauses. So these relative clause is one of the dependent clauses. Relative clause is one of the dependent clauses. So as far as a relative clause is concerned, relative clause. So first point, it has subject plus verb. First point, it has subject plus verb. Second, it is dependent. It is dependent. Yes, because it belongs to that kind, that category, that is dependent clause. Third, it uses relative pronouns and adverbs. Relative pronouns and adverbs like who, which, where, etc. It uses relative pronoun, it uses relative pronouns and adverbs. And fourth point about relative clauses, that it acts as an adjective. It acts as an adjective. It acts as an adjective. So in short, if we try to define relative clause, a relative clause is a clause that has subject and predicate, just like any other clause. Just like any other clause, it has subject and predicate, and it uses a relative pronoun and relative pronouns and adverbs. It uses relative pronouns and adverbs, and it acts as a adjective in the clause, in a sentence. So that is what a relative clause is. It gives more information about the noun. It gives more information about the noun. See, so what this relative clause is, what it means, it is a dependent clause, one of the dependent clauses that cannot stand on its own, and it uses relative pronouns and adverbs, like who, that, whom, whose, which, where, when, etc. And it acts as an adjective. It is sometimes known as adjective clause. And this point is very important. It gives more information about the noun. For example, a relative clause is used in a sentence. For example, this is a sentence. It has two parts. For example, this one is relative clause. This relative clause, it will talk about the subject or this object or any noun. It will talk about a noun. Found in the sentence. So, found in the sentence. And that is why it is written here that I wrote here that it gives more information about the noun. It gives more information about the noun. I'll write a sentence and you will understand that. I know a man. See, if we write only this is okay. I should write the I know the man. I know the man. This is one class. For example, who teaches my brother? Who teaches my brother? This is independent class and this is dependent class. This is dependent or relative class or a relative class. This is dependent or relative class. Now see what relative class, what is the function of relative class here? First part is I know the man. I know the man. So who teaches my brother? So this part talks about the man who teaches my brother. So this part wholly and solely is dedicated to this man. It gives more information about this man. I know the man. I know the man. Until now, I don't know what his profession is. I don't know who he is. But now, who teaches my brother? I can imply that he is a teacher. He is a teacher. So this is more information about the noun. Here, the man is a noun, and this class, a relative class, it gives us more information about this noun. About this noun. And it is also used to join two sentences. That is the examination perspective, examination point of view. Examination point of view, that you are given two sentences and you are instructed to join them by using a relative pronoun. Join them by using relative pronoun and or relative adverb. So simply what you have to do, you have to create one of the sentences. You have to change one of the sentences into relative clauses. For example, I'll write an example, two examples here. Yes, we'll discuss all these relative pronouns one by one. We'll discuss them one by one, particularly relative pronouns, because your examination concerns relative pronouns particularly relative pronouns. It is written there, relative pronouns. So yes, adverbs are also there, but particularly we'll discuss all these relative pronouns one by one. But before that, I'll write some examples. See, these are some sentences which they are in pairs. They are in pairs, and we shall join them by using a relative clause. First one, he finds a mobile phone. The mobile is quite new. How will you change it? He finds a mobile phone. Yes, That is quite new. See how we are going to change these. When you are asked that you have to change one of the sentences in a relative class, so we have two sentences, we have to join them by changing one of these sentences into relative class, so we changed this second sentence into a relative class. We made it so that it gives us more information about a noun found in this sentence. For example, he finds a mobile phone. This is okay. That is quite new. So this sentence talks about mobile phone. This class talks about this mobile phone. So this is more information about noun. Now you will see how that is used, how who is used, how which is used, how whose is used. That things we'll do in upcoming lectures. She helped a man. The man is her boss. She helped a man. The man is her boss. Who is her boss? So this second sentence we change it into relative class, and it gives us more information about the man. And third one, they are going to Gulmarg. They should leave at 5 a.m. See, they who are going to Gulmarg should leave at 5 a.m. So this is all about today's lecture. We discussed in today's lecture, we discussed class, we discussed dependent class, we discussed independent class, and then we, to some extent, I discussed with you a relative class, and I told you what are the functions of a relative class, and then we discussed some examples. We solved some examples here. So this is all about relative class, the definition and the function of relative class. And inshallah, in coming lectures, we'll discuss how different pronouns are used in relative clauses, and why they are used. Their usage we'll discuss in coming lectures. So I conclude the lecture here. Till the next lecture, Allah Hafiz and thank you.